topics included in this chapter. First, you have to study about blood. First, you have to study about blood, and components of bloods are included in this chapter. Components of blood. Then later you have to study about plasma. Then components of plasma, then role of plasma, what are the functions performed by plasma. Then you have to study about human heart. You have to study. Then mechanism of heart or working of heart, human heart working mechanism. Then in heart you have to study about structure of heart, what are the chambers of heart, etc. Then in addition to this you have to study about pulse. What is pulse? Then different disorders associated with heart. Then what is heartbeat? You have to study heartbeat. Then in addition to this you have to study about what is double circulation. Double circulation is included in your syllabus. Double circulation means different types of circulation that you have to study. What are the different types of circulation, how it differs. Then you have to study about different types of arteries, then veins. In addition to this, blood capillaries are also included in this chapter. Then lymphatic system is also included here. Next, finally you have to study about transport in plants. That is, you may be heard about different types of transport mechanism or different conducting tissues. That is xylem transport and phloem transport. Just go through this. First you have to study about blood. Components of bloods are there. Then what is plasma? Then components of plasma. Role of plasma also included here. Then structure of human heart, working of heart. Then what is pulse? Then heartbeat. Then double circulation, arteries, vein, capillaries. What are the difference between arteries, veins and capillaries? Then you have to study about structure of artery, vein, capillaries, etc. Then lymphatic system, transport in plants, xylem and phloem. So these are the important topics included in this chapter. First we have to discuss about blood. So let us discuss about blood first. In the last chapter itself you already learned that different types of nutrients, that is glucose, amino acid, like that different types of nutrients are absorbed at our small intestine, isn't it? Our small intestine contain certain finger-like projection. It is called villi. So through that villi, these nutrients are taken into blood. That you already learned in the second chapter. Okay. Now in order to understand the different mechanism, different functions performed by blood, you have to learn the structure of blood. So first you have to learn about study about structure of blood. So structure of blood is included in your syllabus. Okay, structure of blood is included in your syllabus. Then in the second chapter itself you already learned that there are different types of absorption mechanisms. absorption processes. What are they? Osmosis is there, then diffusion is there, active transport is there, then facilitated diffusion. This already you studied, so I am not dealing with that topic. Today we are dealing with the blood. First you have to study about blood. Structure of blood is included in your chapter. So you may be knowing some details, some news or some idea about blood, isn't it? Usually human blood is very dark red in color. Our blood contains two important components. Human blood contains two important components. First component is called plasma. First component is called plasma, and second component is called blood cells. Blood cells. So our blood structure can be classified into two types. What are they? First one is called plasma, then second one is called blood cell. Plasma, around 55%, around 55% of human blood is composed of plasma, and remaining 45% is composed of blood cells. That is, if you take 100 ml of blood, you will get 50% of plasma, then 45% of blood cells. But it is very difficult to identify or distinguish this plasma and blood cells in a normal blood sample. That means we cannot detect plasma and blood cells with our naked eye. So we have to do some experiment. We have to do some experiment, or we have to conduct some tests. Then only we can separate this plasma and blood cells. So there is an experiment in your textbook. So let us discuss what is that experiment, how to perform that experiment, then what are the results you are getting. This test is very simple. It is nothing but just to separate plasma and blood cells in a blood sample. So first you have to take blood sample. Take blood sample. First you have to take a blood sample in a test tube. Okay. First you have to take a blood sample in a test tube. Then into that test tube you have to add a chemical known as EDTA. What is it? It is known as EDTA. The expanded form is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. So what is the step? Students, listen here. So first step, what you have to do? Take blood sample in a clean test tube. Then you have to add little amount of EDTA. That is a chemical. It is used to separate plasma and blood cell. In different types of laboratory, we are using it as a anticoagulant. That means it prevents the blood clotting process. So we are using here just to separate plasma from blood cell. So first you have to take blood sample in a clean test tube, then add a little amount of EDTA. EDTA is nothing but a chemical. It prevents blood clotting. EDTA is ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Then what you have to do is to keep the test tube without disturbing. You have to keep that test tube in a test tube stand for few minutes. After few minutes you can see two layers. What is it? First you have to take a test tube. You have to take a test tube, clean test tube you take. Then blood sample is there. Then what you have to do? You have to add EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. It is a chemical. So if you take 100 ml of blood or few amount of blood in a test tube, what you will get? Around 55%. Around 55% of your sample will be plasma, isn't it? Around 55% of your blood sample will be plasma, and remaining 45% will be composed of blood cells. Okay. I am writing here plasma, that is around 55%, and blood cells, that is around 45%. Plasma is light yellow colored. Plasma is light yellow colored. Light yellow colored. Blood cells, you may know it is usually dark red in color. So it is a experiment just to separate plasma from blood cell. Have you understood what is it? You have to take a clean test tube, then take a sample in that test tube, then add little amount of EDTA, then shake it well, keep the test tube containing blood and EDTA without disturbing. After few minutes you can see two regions, that is 55% will be light yellow colored, that is your blood sample, that is 55% of that sample will be plasma, that is light yellow in color, and remaining region 45% is usually blood cell, it is usually dark red in color. So you already learned that blood contains plasma and blood cells. Now let us discuss what are the different types of blood cells. Any idea about the different types of blood cell? You already studied in 8th standard, or you may be learned in different types of textbook or different types of media. Okay, what are the different types of blood cells? So there are 3 types of blood cell. First blood cell is known as red blood cell. First one is known as red blood cell. It is also called RBC. What is it? First one is known as red blood cell. It is also called RBC. And second one is known as white blood cell. White blood cell. It is also called WBC. Second one is known as white blood cell. It is also called WBC. And third one is known as platelets. So there are 3 types of blood cell. Human being contain 3 types of blood cell. First one is known as red blood cell. It is also known as RBC. And second blood cell, it is also known as WBC or white blood cell. And third one is known as platelet. So what are the functions performed by RBC or red blood cell? The main function of RBC is transport of oxygen to tissues or cell. And our WBC, that is white blood cell, it is associated with defense mechanism. That means WBC, white blood cells, it act against different types of disease causing organisms such as bacteria, fungi, virus, etc. So it is associated with defense mechanism, that is fight against disease causing agent. And third one, platelet, it is associated with blood clotting or blood coagulation mechanism. So these are the components of blood. Have you understood? First we discussed about the structure of blood. Blood contain 2 regions, plasma and blood cell. Then second we discussed about an experiment just to separate plasma and blood cells in a given sample of blood. Then there are 3 types of blood cell. Then what are the functions performed by this blood cell? Now we are moving to plasma. Here next we are moving to blood plasma. We already discussed blood contain blood plasma and blood cells. Let us discuss few points related to plasma. We already discussed that plasma contain different types of proteins. Okay, plasma contain different types of proteins are there. Then it is around 55% of human blood. It is light yellow in color. It is light yellow in color. Okay, human plasma, it contribute 50% of human blood. Then there are different types of proteins in plasma. Then it is light yellow in color. Then there are different simple molecules such as amino acids, then fatty acids, then glucose is there, then glycerol. These molecules are usually mixed with plasma. What are they? Amino acids, fatty acids, glucose and glycerol. These molecules are usually mixed with plasma and it is transported to different cells or tissues by dissolving in plasma. Okay, so plasma will transport different types of nutrients. What are the amino acids, fatty acids, glucose and glycerol. So this is about plasma. Now let us draw a chart showing different components of plasma. So components of plasma, we have to draw a chart. Let us try to draw a chart showing components of plasma. Listen here. First we have to write here, what is it? Plasma. Then our plasma contains different types of components. First component, it is known as what? It is known as water. First component is known as water. That is 90 to 92% of our blood is composed plasma. Blood plasma is composed of water. It contributes around 90 to 92%. And second component is known as plasma proteins. Second component is known as plasma protein. And there are some other substances. They are generally written as other substances or other components. Listen here. We are just preparing a chart of human blood, that is human plasma. We are considering here around 90 to 92% of plasma is composed of water and around 7 to 8% is composed of protein, and remaining components are generally known as other components. So it includes different substances. For example, hormones are there, then different components which are present in our blood. Then salt is there, then sugar, fat, etc. So these are generally known as other components. It is also transported by mixing with plasma. And here you can see plasma protein. There are three types of plasma protein. What are they? Any information about it? There are three types of plasma protein. First one is known as albumin. And second one is known as globulin. And third protein is known as fibrinogen. So students, how many types of proteins are there? Plasma proteins, there are three types. What are they? First one is known as albumin, and second one is known as globulin, third one is known as fibrinogen. So these proteins perform some functions related to our blood. Albumin is associated with regulating blood pressure. What is the function of albumin? It regulates blood pressure. So there are some proteins present in our blood itself. What is the function? Just to regulate blood pressure. Okay. What is it? The albumin protein regulate blood pressure. And there are some other protein. Second one, it is known as a globulin. What is it? Globulin. It is associated with defense mechanism. It is associated with defense mechanism. It is associated with defense mechanism. It is associated with the defense mechanism. That means it fight against different types of infectious agent, such as they are commonly known as pathogen or microorganism. For example, bacteria, virus, fungus, etc. So it protects from disease causing agent. So globulin protein is associated with the defense mechanism. And third one is known as fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is associated with the blood clotting mechanism. Blood clotting mechanism. Third protein is known as fibrinogen. It is associated with the blood clotting or blood coagulation. So here we just draw the picture of plasma, that is chart showing components of plasma. What are they? Human plasma is composed of three parts. What are they? First one is known as water, that is 92% of blood plasma is water. Then there are second region, it is known as plasma proteins. It is around 7 to 8% of human blood sample. Then other components, what are they? Hormones, salt, sugar, fat, etc. These are usually dissolved in plasma and it is transported to different regions of cells or tissues. Then plasma proteins are classified into three types. What are they? Albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. So this is about today's topic. So what are the topics discussed here? First you have to study what is blood, that is structure of blood. So our blood contains two regions, plasma and blood cells. Then an experiment just to separate plasma and blood cell. Then different types of blood cells we discussed. Then just a general information about plasma. Then a chart showing components of plasma. Then we have to discuss about main proteins present in our blood. There are 3 proteins present in our blood sample. Then what are the functions performed by? So this much you have to write in your notebook. First you write heading, that is simple nutrients into cells. Then you write blood and structure of blood. You write one experiment just to separate blood cells and blood plasma. Next you have to write blood cells. Then functions of blood cell, types of blood cell you write there. Then just draw this chart, that is chart showing plasma, components of plasma, then functions performed by proteins. So this much only we are discussing here. Next day we can meet with a new topic.